There is a plant with thick reddish stems sprawling through the cracks of your driveway right now that contains more omega-3 fatty acids than a fillet of Atlantic salmon, not per pound, per gram of fresh leaf. The herbicide industry spends over $40 billion annually making certain you never learn its name, because the most efficient way to sell a product is to first convince people they have a problem. This is the story of purslane, Portulacta oleracea. In 77 AD, the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder cataloged it as one of the most important plants a household could grow. He wrote that it cured headaches, inflammation of the eyes, diseases of the gums, and disorders of the stomach. He was not guessing. He was recording what millions of people across the Mediterranean already knew from 2,000 years of use. Travel back further. In 3000 BC, Egyptian physicians prescribed purslane for infections of the digestive tract. In the same era, Ayurvedic healers in the Indus Valley used it to cool fevers and heal wounds. The plant does not recognize borders. It grows on every inhabited continent. It has been a food and a medicine for as long as human civilization has existed. The Aztecs called it verdolaga. They ate it sautéed with chilies and pork. The Persians called it corfe. It appeared in Ottoman cuisine, in Chinese pharmacopoeia, in the diets of indigenous peoples across North America. When the first European settlers arrived on this continent, purslane was already here, not as a foreign invader, but as a plant that had fed civilizations for millennia. Then came the lawn. In the 1950s, the American suburb was constructed around a single aesthetic ideal, the uniform green lawn. This was not a natural development. It was a manufactured desire sold by landscaping companies, fertilizer manufacturers, and a herbicide industry that was just beginning to understand its own potential. Purslane, with its sprawling mats and fleshy leaves, became the enemy. Not because it was harmful, because it was not grass. The herbicide 2,4-D, developed during World War II as a chemical weapon derivative, was repackaged for suburban lawns by the 1950s. Purslane was listed as a primary target species. Millions of American homeowners began poisoning the most nutritious plant in their yard on schedule twice a year to maintain a monoculture of grass that feeds nothing and heals nothing. Here is where the science fractures the silence. In 1986, researchers at the University of Western Ontario published a paper in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition that stopped the nutritional science community cold. They had analyzed the fatty acid profile of purslane and found something that defied the existing model of plant nutrition: 300 to 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid per 100 grams of fresh leaves. That is 5 to 7 times more than spinach, 15 times more than iceberg lettuce, and more omega-3 per gram than a fillet of salmon raised in the wild. Alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, is the plant-based precursor to the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, the same compounds found in fish oil, aggressively marketed at $30 to $60 per bottle by the supplement industry. The plant synthesizes them for free in the cracks of your driveway. The mechanism matters. Inside the body, ALA from purslane enters the desaturation and elongation pathway, a series of enzymatic conversions primarily occurring in the liver that produce EPA and DHA. The conversion rate in healthy adults averages between 5 and 10%, but purslane also contains significant quantities of glutathione, vitamin C, and vitamin E, antioxidants that protect the conversion pathway from oxidative damage, improving bioavailability. This is not a happy coincidence. This is a plant that evolved to be eaten and used. The 1986 study was followed in 1999 by a placebo-controlled trial at Harvard Medical School examining purslane's effect on cardiovascular biomarkers. 30 participants. 12 weeks. Triglyceride levels fell by an average of 32%. LDL cholesterol dropped 14%. Blood pressure in hypertensive participants decreased by an average of 8 millimeters of mercury systolic. These are not marginal numbers. These are the numbers pharmaceutical companies spend decades and billions of dollars trying to replicate. Compare that to a standard statin prescription, $150 to $400 per month depending on the drug, with documented side effects including muscle degradation, liver enzyme elevation, and peripheral neuropathy in a subset of patients. Purslane extract costs between $8 and $20 per month in supplement form. The fresh plant, if you know where to look, costs nothing. But nobody asked the critical question: why did purslane disappear from American medicine? In 1820, purslane appeared in the United States Pharmacopoeia, the official compendium of recognized medicines. It remained there through multiple editions. Then, in the mid-20th century, as pharmaceuticals standardization accelerated and the FDA began requiring clinical trials for any substance marketed marketed as medicine, purslane was quietly reclassified, not removed for failure, not pulled for safety concerns, simply reclassified as a food, which meant it could no longer be sold with any medical claim, studied with pharmaceutical funding, or included in clinical guidelines. This is not conspiracy. This is the architecture of patent law. A plant that grows wild cannot be patented. A synthetic molecule derived from a compound found in that plant can. The pharmaceutical research pipeline runs on patent exclusivity. You cannot own purslane. You cannot own omega-3 in its natural form, but you can extract one component, modify its molecular structure by exactly enough to qualify for a patent, and sell it as a drug at 40 times the price. The plant did not fail the pharmacopoeia. The pharmacopoeia failed the plant. The pattern repeats. Amaranth was banned by Spanish conquistadors who recognized its power to feed indigenous populations without colonial dependency. Mesquite forests across the American Southwest were cleared for cattle ranching, erasing a caloric staple that had sustained desert civilizations for 4,000 years. Fava beans were replaced by cholesterol-lowering pharmaceuticals that charge $400 for what grows freely in a garden. Indigenous crops that enable nutritional sovereignty are erased, not because they fail, because they succeed without requiring a supply chain. In 2003, a double-blind randomized trial at the Isfahan University of Medical Sciences in Iran tested purslane extract against metformin, one of the world's most prescribed diabetes medications, in 60 type 2 diabetic patients over 12 weeks. Fasting blood glucose in the purslane group dropped by an average of 29%. Metformin reduced it by 31%. The difference was statistically insignificant. The cost difference was not. Metformin costs between $30 and $80 per month. Purslane grows at the edges of every parking lot in the country. The plant also contains significant levels of melatonin, up to 1.2 milligrams per 100 grams of fresh weight, according to a 2013 study published in the Journal of Pineal Research. For context, standard melatonin supplements sold in pharmacies typically contain between 0.5 and 5 milligrams per capsule and retail for $10 to $25 per bottle of 60 capsules. Purslane delivers this compound in a food matrix alongside the nutrients required for proper metabolism. Now find it. It is almost certainly growing within 200 meters of where you are reading this. Look for a low-growing plant, rarely exceeding 30 centimeters in height. Reddish-purple stems, thick and smooth. Oval, paddle-shaped leaves, fleshy and slightly glossy, dark green on top and paler beneath. In summer, tiny 5-petaled yellow flowers open only in direct sunlight and close by afternoon. The leaves, when broken, release a faint, clean, slightly acidic smell. The taste is mild, slightly lemony, with a texture somewhere between spinach and cucumber. It grows in driveways, in sidewalk cracks, in the disturbed soil at construction sites, at the edges of gardens where no one sprays, in the untended corners of parking lots, in the same places people spray Roundup every spring as a matter of habit and aesthetics. In Turkey, purslane is still eaten fresh in salads with yogurt and garlic. In Mexico, it is cooked daily in homes that never stopped using it. In Greece, it appears in traditional recipes documented in texts spanning centuries. These food cultures preserved what American standardization erased. They did not need a pharmacopoeia to tell them what worked. They had the longer record. What was lost was not the medicine. What was lost was the permission to trust it. The plant is still here. It has survived every herbicide spray, every concrete expansion, every landscaping decision made in the name of uniformity. It grows back every spring in the same cracks it was poisoned in last fall. It does not require irrigation or fertilizer or cultivation. It requires only that someone look down. If this vault opens something for you, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon.